Hi, my name is Kimberly Sims and I am an attorney practicing corporate and transactional cannabis law. Today we are going to be talking about the inside track, preparing for your future in the cannabis industry. The cannabis industry started in California in 1996 and it's currently undergoing a huge sea change where we're implementing a strong regulatory structure with robust enforcement and mechanisms in place. Today we'll talk not only about local compliance and state compliance, but what's going on with the federal government and how it's impacting your business. We'll focus on the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act as well as the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. I am Kimberly Sims and I am an attorney. I've been practicing in the cannabis space for almost 8 years now, focusing on the corporate and transactional side of the cannabis industry. And my practice has been growing and evolving with your businesses. It started out where barrier to entry was really rather quite low. I really got my feel for policy and teaching cannabis through a wonderful woman who's sitting in the front row, Nicole Scott. She started the Legal Cannabis Institute and gave me a platform to share information about the cannabis industry, which helped me to hone my speaking skills. So thank you, Nicole. I really would not be here without her. There's absolutely no question in my mind about that. And as your businesses grow and evolve, thus so does my practice. Before, we would be nonprofit mutual benefit corporations, and the ideas of marketing or branding or intellectual property or local licensing was sort of something we just brushed to the side. And now all of those things are becoming so much more important, and I have transitioned from just a good old-fashioned transactional attorney to really a policy nut and a lobbyist as well. So it's with great pleasure that I present to you this information today, and I will pass the speaking microphone along to my other panelists to introduce themselves.
So my name is Derek Davis. I am a CPA and also the founder of California Cannabis CPA. I'm really excited to talk about taxes today. I'm sure you are as well. But anyways, I first got involved in cannabis back in 2010 when it was on the ballot for full-scale legalization in California, and that's really when 280E, which we'll talk about in much more detail later on, really came about. And for better or worse, obviously that proposition didn't pass, but about 2 years ago in 2015, I started noticing this really change in perception towards cannabis, and that's really what re-sparked my interest. And I've been a CPA now for about, say, almost close to 7.5 years. So back in 2015, I restarted my efforts in the cannabis industry, and I started California Cannabis CPA, and we focus on cannabis taxes, finances, as well as building business plans, pro forma financial statements, and all that other stuff. If I do hold my mic too far away, please raise your hand, let me know, and I'd be happy to hold it closer. Thank you.
We had 4 dispensaries in Oakland, and we tried to move from 4 to 8 and then have roughly about 25 cultivation facilities in there. And as soon as we did that, that's when the DA came to me and drew the line in the sand and said, you cross over this, you're going to jail too. Well, I didn't go to jail, but we didn't cross the line. Unfortunately, as you know, those cultivators exist without permits, but it's don't ask, don't tell. So we deal with that. Oakland has 8 of the 25 top revenue-generating dispensaries in the state, in one city, with the saturated market of San Francisco and Berkeley around. So you can see where good branding, good smart moves, and strategy can still make you successful at it. So with that said, I retired a 1.5 years ago and joined HCL and developed this program we'll call a marijuana management program. We, out of our 400 clients, we have over 50 right now that we're working with in this space, and projected based on what we're having to work on right now up to 70 agencies that we will be doing this. We manage almost $2 billion in projects and over 2.5 million cultivation square footage in California. From Blythe to Mendocino to Inyo County to California City. And we developed tax ordinances, which we'll talk about, regulatory ordinances, and land use ordinance and application processes throughout there. So we'll talk more about that as we move through the PowerPoint.
Good morning, my name is Christopher Rowe. So my background is a little bit unusual to cannabis. As you all get into this more, you'll find everybody says that, which is always funny to me, but I've got a master's in accounting. I was a senior executive at a bank. During the banking crisis, I decided to get out of banking and start my own businesses. I've been fortunate to have always been a good economist, and so I kind of predicted what I thought would be an emerging market opportunity in cannabis about 8 years ago. We've been good friends the whole time, but Kim Sims was teaching classes back then on how to get into cannabis, how to start a business, and so I took one of her classes, and I actually talked to a couple different attorneys and found Kim to be the best, and had Kim, you're welcome, had Kim help me set up my first company. Built within about a year and a half the biggest delivery company in the nation. Just because brick and mortar, you literally put a sign over your head that says, "I'm right here, police, come find me." That wasn't very appealing to me, so Kim helped me figure out how to do something a little bit unusual. There was a lot of deliveries, but there really wasn't anybody trying to be compliant, so she helped me navigate that, and we started delivery, built it up. We currently run throughout San Diego County and all throughout Central California with about 70 employees in that business. And then in that process, and kind of evaluating everything, I realized that there was a real lack of infrastructure on the retail side or support for the retail side. And so I started looking to distribution, which isn't as commonly discussed unless you're in the investor circuit of cannabis. It's become a very big topic, very hot topic these days, or if you're on the political side. But about 2.5 years ago, I recognized the need for what people are beginning to see now and started a distribution company. And so I also have ownership in one of the larger distribution companies in cannabis. It was the first company to have full statewide distribution, the first company to be a multi-state distributor, first company to have a full line of distribution. So I've got a very unusual and kind of rounded range of understanding and experience in cannabis. I don't have the legal aspect, but I certainly understand both the wholesale and the retail channel pretty well.
Great, thank you. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at the overview. Let's go to the objectives. So at the end of this presentation, we want everyone to have a thorough understanding of the marketplace. We want you to understand the many problems that federal law presents within the cannabis industry. We want you to have a really good understanding not only of the new regulations that California has passed, the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act and Prop 64, but also how we got there. Because we're at a super interesting time in the market where we're kind of straddling this old world and new world, wherein you have to form your businesses and play by the rules of Prop 215 and Senate Bill 420 and the AG's guidelines, but at the same time recognize that those are being phased out and get ready to position yourself with a smart strategy for how you transition moving forward. We are going to spend a lot of time talking about local treatment because it's sort of been something that, as I think Chris alluded to, we kind of just shrugged our shoulders about. We knew that we were supposed to technically have local business licenses, but in terms of enforcement for anyone that wasn't a brick and mortar, kind of fell through the cracks because we weren't visible to the public. And so there wasn't really that tangible consequence for people's failure to have a local license. But that is absolutely changing, and it's, I would argue, going to be the most challenging part of finding your pathway to compliance at the state level. Then, of course, we'll talk a lot about the new laws, and then we'll try and give you guys some action items so that you walk away today knowing what you need to do next. So that is our overview. And just a quick look here, I think that this map speaks for itself. You can see that we are a green state. Most states at this point have some sort of medical marijuana law, be it a full legalization or a decriminalization, and then more and more adult use. And I think that next year we will continue to see more and more states. The way that states are passing their marijuana laws can come in two forms. It can be through the legislature, which if I were in charge of state government, I would probably want to craft it myself rather than leaving it up to the will of the voters. Otherwise you get something like Prop 64, which is, got its good and its bad components for sure. But the other way is to simply run a voter initiative. So some states are getting ahead of it and realizing if we don't put this together ourselves, our voters will, and it may not ultimately reflect what we as a state want. So I think this, yeah.
Can I jump in really quick? Just for those of you who are really on top of the news and might have seen Mr. Spicer's.
Oh no, wait, that's in here. That's coming.
Oh.
Don't give away the exciting stuff too soon, Chris. So no, you may not make a comment. All right. California's market share, clearly very substantial. And so when we talk in a few moments about the federal situation, as I like to call it, bear this in mind, that California represents 49% of the cannabis market share. And also bear in mind that we are the 6th largest economy in the world, which means don't mess with us because we have some power and we will utilize that. So I think this is always an important picture to look at whenever I come across it. I'm like, oh my God, California, good for you. Then I want to talk a little bit about the projected growth here. So I've seen all sorts of charts and numbers as far as how rapidly the cannabis market is growing. But I want to talk about this chart because I think that it merits some discussion. So I'm going to start with Chris, and can you see, you can see this in front of you as well. Do you think that this is an exaggeration of the growth that we're going to see? Do you think that it's an underestimation of how much money there really is out there?
Actually, I do, and you see a lot of numbers. It's interesting I've been in this almost 8 years now, so I have a lot of news sources, a lot of resources that I glean from, and I see a number like this often. But you see a big range of numbers, and the toughest part is for people to really get a good finger on how much of this isn't properly documented and recorded. You have a state like California that's, like Kim said, is a massive economy on its own. It's a massive cannabis market on its own. And so how much is actually going through retailers? How much of it is actually being properly tracked? How much of it is black market? And there's really no good numbers because California hasn't structured a good system for tracking cannabis. And so I think of all the numbers I've read, I think the best number that I've read that makes the most sense to me is that California currently itself, so this says 4.6 billion for the entire nation. From what I've read in the different reports, I think the best number I've seen is about 5 billion just for California. And the reason I say that, and the reason I think that makes sense, is because California has 8 times the population of Colorado. Colorado did over $1 billion in sales last year. And I think as a percentage, it's probably safe to say there's more stoners in California than there is in Colorado. And so to me, when I look at these numbers, I think they're grossly under-exaggerated. But from what we've seen from adoption and from the growth curve so far, I do think this is reasonable. And one thing that you got to consider that's different is there's a lot of people who might be in their, let's say, 45 to 65 age bracket, in that demographic, who said, I tried cannabis when I was younger, but I'm not ready to try that now. Who in the past have been really hesitant. I don't understand this whole recommendation thing. It's very confusing. Is it not a prescription? Is it legal? Is it not? There's been all this gray space. Now that we're moving into not only just a medical, but a very clear recreational market, you can just have this. There's no question. People are getting comfortable, and people are reading all these things, reading about opioid addiction. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, gosh, I know from experience it's not bad. The information I'm reading seems to indicate that it's better and it's healthier for you. And so, long story short, we've got a huge portion of the demographic that hasn't been touched, really, that we're going to start seeing adoption into. These people that have tried it, that are okay with it, probably this, let's say 40 to 65, 40 to 70 age bracket. And that's a bracket with discretionary income. So they're not worried about, am I going to save $5 on an eighth? They're worried about, well, what's going to be best? And so we'll see a lot of sales driven from that. So I think this growth potential is very realistic.
So I think Chris's comments focus more on the consumer side, but David, the conversation that you and I have had, I think on more than one occasion, is that we're looking at a lot of different numbers and project applications and projections as people are coming to us, and we sort of share this thought that people aren't necessarily really putting onto paper the full cost of compliance. One of the things that a client actually brought up to me that I hadn't thought about, see, we all learn from each other, is that once the Department of Pesticides comes in and eliminates half of the stuff that people are using to get their 2, 3, 4 pounds of plant, or per light, pardon me, they may not have those yields and all the different layers of taxes. So from a business side, I guess I have 2 questions. How many of these cannabis projects do you think will ultimately succeed? And do you think that we will at some point hit a saturation point within the market, or have we already?
Well, okay, yeah. So it's kind of twofold. One is we're not at a saturation market yet. where, at least in the medical side, they estimate that about 980,000 acres will be needed to consume for medical side. Based on our numbers, we're at about 700,000 acres statewide. Now that's in what we anticipate either regulated or people that will actually be able to get in compliance. That's not all the black market, so depending where the black market goes there, takes or doesn't take the industry to will have a significant impact on it. Of course, we'll talk later about what's happening at the fed level on the recreational side. But what I'm seeing with the projects that we're doing is one where we have an extreme of people that have a lot of money that are doing a very good job of thinking this through, and those that are not. Our biggest concern that you need to look at really is, I want to go out and do something, I can get property, I got investors, that's great. But the number one thing you got to be able to do, which is a big concern of mine, is your ability to get the product to market. You can outgrow something and you have it all sitting on your shelves. If you can't get it to market, that's where the problem occurs. And so you got to be very sensitive about that ability, short-term and long-term. Because in about 3 years, when we balance out the regulatory world, you're going to see basically wholesaling futures of product. And you're going to be setting up prices if you're getting, let's say, $2,300 a pound or $1,875 a pound. Your future people are going to say, I'm only buying 800 pounds, I want you to guarantee that for 3 years. So there goes your transition. So you need to really know your unit price with your staffing, your regulatory, your cost of your property that you may be purchasing, your taxes, everything in there, and really examine that, not just what you're making on the front end, but really examine that, because that becomes very critical. And on my end, that's who I'm looking at is coming into my client cities. I need to make sure that success is there.
Perfect. Okay, so those are our thoughts on the marketplace. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is federal law. So I hope that if you found your way into this room, that you already know that cannabis is still treated as a Schedule I controlled substance. That basically means that the drug has a high potential for abuse, that the government does not accept any medical purpose, and that there is a lack of accepted safety for the use of this, even under medical supervision. I don't think there's probably a person in this room that agrees with that, but nonetheless, that's where we are. At this exact moment in time, and I think that while I'm not an oracle, I would predict that that's not going to change in the next 4 years. In fact, there was even a move this summer for the DEA to either reschedule it to a Schedule II, which you will learn in a few moments here would not make any difference from a banking or taxation situation. For example, cocaine is a Schedule II drug, and I'm not really aware of like a robust cottage cocaine industry where I can walk into a store and select my cocaine, but you never know. And so moving into Schedule II isn't really going to help us. Ultimately, what must happen is we have to remove it from the schedule altogether. And I think that we are a long way from that, unfortunately. And so, given the fact that cannabis is a Schedule I drug, it creates some really basic problems for us that we're going to address in a moment. Banking and tax, and that's where we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty. But it's also important to know that given this Federal I status, we still have burgeoning markets in Colorado and Washington and California, and to understand, well, how could that possibly be? You know, a lot of people ask me that. I don't really, like Uber drivers all the time want to have that conversation. Well, I don't get it. You're here for a cannabis conference, but I thought it's illegal federally, so how is this happening? And it really is based on what's called enforcement priority. And every president gets to decide what they prioritize in terms of how federal funds will be used. And under the Obama administration, we really had the deprioritization of the enforcement of the Controlled Substances Act under certain circumstances. So the first memo that we got was in 2009. It was the Ogden memo, which basically says that this federal government shouldn't use its resources to enforce cannabis medical marijuana laws against the individual patient. And I remember all the lawyers who were around at that time got super excited, and they were like, this is great, this means our businesses can really flourish. And I remember thinking, am I reading something different than what they're reading? Because to me, this looks like it's just talking about individual patients. And sure enough, that's really all it applied to. However, in 2013, 1 year after Colorado and Washington enacted their adult use laws, we get the Cole memo. And as of today, the Cole memo is in place. And what the Cole memo does, it's sort of a two-parter, and that this will be included in your materials that I will send to everyone, is it says, it opens with lots of reefer madness language, marijuana is still super dangerous, all that stuff. But then it says that there will be 8 core priorities that will guide the federal government, the Department of Justice, enforcement of the Controlled Substances Act, no matter what.
The panel was very knowledgeable, and it opened up a whole cadre of things that I could think about and discuss and figure out how I wanted to enter the cannabis industry.
Yeah, this experience has been super informative. I've had tons of questions, so I really loved everything, all of the Q&A time. It was just super thorough and in-depth, so definitely a good experience for sure.